Okay.
There we go. All right. So what you are now looking at is what they affectionately call an ice cube. It is the end of the cable, and it uses a crimp tool to squeeze it on to make the cable. Now I'm going to try to describe this with enough detail that you can visualize it, but I will also explain some of the problems that happen when you make a cable. Okay. And what's interesting is, you know, when I first started teaching back in 2005, I'd get students coming in and they could do things with their hands and they were mechanically inclined, so on and so forth. But as the years have stretched on, and more students are spending more and more time online, gaming and other such things, the fine motor skills that you need to build a cable are somewhat lacking. Now, this is not a bad thing or a good thing. It is just a thing. So you kind of have to practice this kind of thing. It's like anything in sport. You have to practice swinging a bat to hit the ball or shooting a three-pointer and so on and so forth. Okay. So that's why I'm making this opportunity. Make a cable and you get to keep it. Okay. It's totally optional. I'm not going to give you points. It's no extra credit for you to practice. Okay. I decided to make it worth no points due to all the hassle of it. So I don't want to penalize people, you know, having issues with trying to get through the VAX process and getting your card loaded and then getting your IBM wallet up and then getting your $250 so you can get your textbook. Yeah, I want to make it easy. So it's completely optional. Okay. Generally are fairly straightforward. You need some tool, and I will zoom out a little bit. Okay. And there we go. Let's kind of see this. Now I didn't think about this. I should have moved the computer monitor so I can kind of see it from where I am. Give me a second. Maybe I can do, well, no, it's still not big enough. Never mind. I'll just look over my shoulder because I've got it on the big screen. This crimp tool, the way it works, as you see, this particular one has 8 pins and 6 pins. Now, RJ45 refers to the size of the ice cube. RJ11 refers to the size of the ice cube for a phone line. Now, I don't have an RJ11, and I did look around, but don't find phone cords laying around anymore. Everything's Ethernet, so it's voice over IP. But the phone systems, you used to be able to wire a phone and Ethernet on the same cable. You would use tip and ring for your phone, from your phone, and put it in the very middle of your Ethernet cable. Okay. I've got an Ethernet cable here that's what we call unshielded twisted pair. Let me open it up a little bit so you can see it a little better. And these are the cables. Now, can you see the colors? you should see blue, white and blue, orange, white and orange, green, white and green, brown, and white and brown. There is a standard for making cables on which colors go into which slot in the ice cube. Now, I can speak from experience. You can make a cable with any pattern you want, but then the guy who comes behind you is going to hate you because you're not following the standards. And if there's some troubleshooting issues, you've just made his life harder. Okay. But for home use, who cares? It's not that big of a deal. Okay. Now, when you make a cable and this crimp tool, now I'm going to try to point this out and show you how it works. Let's see here. I'm going to put this over a white surface and I'll try to go right into the screen. Can you see how I squeeze the lever and you see these little pins coming up? It's a little hard to see, but what's happening is, think of very fine mesh, because each one of these gold tabs get pushed into the ice cube and get pushed into the cable. These, and we'll just pick one. It goes into the brown pair. Okay. I know this is really hard to see, but when a ice cube is crimped, you can only crimp it once. You do not get a second chance. And this is something that I can't show very well. And I did try to get it to zero in. I just can't quite show it too well. But these pins, these gold pins, is what embeds into the cable in the ice cube. And you can also see that there's this plastic piece right at the end here, kind of where my fingers are. That is called a strain relief. So when you crimp correctly, you've actually got a strain relief capability built into your cable, so it won't pull it apart. Okay. And then the actual cable is everywhere you can think of on the internet. And it's in your book. So what I'm going to do is untangle this cord and show you something. You turn it on, and then you just say test, or I can click on auto here and let it go through its thing. Oh, did you see how it missed one? Ah, there's something wrong with this cable. So first of all, I want to wiggle it a little bit. Oh, see, I got it to work. Whoop, nope, it didn't work. So this cable has some issues. And if I look at it really closely, what I'm going to see is when the student made this, it's really difficult to see. The pins, these gold pins, did not get pushed all the way into the ice cube to penetrate the cable. Okay. Because it's a mechanical connection. So there's the headaches that happen with cables. And I have another version of the cable tester here. Now, you may remember, well, no, you won't. Your parents may remember BNC connectors, what we called thin net and thick net, Ethernet, back in the day, where the Ethernet was, everything was triggered like a giant sprinkler system. If you left one of the, if you didn't put a terminator on your cable, It didn't work. You needed your 50-ohm Terminator. I had those things laying all over the place. So what it's doing now, this cable tester is going through and double checking the crossover to make sure it's behaving itself. This cable tester also, so you can actually use it at the other end of the cable. There we go. So you can actually be in one side of the building, the other side of the building. So you can actually see, oh, okay, my cable's bad and I need to refix it. I need to recrimp it or put another end on it or punch it down again on the patch panel, any number of things. You can actually get a job as they call them cable installers. What they do is they wire buildings and they're kind of like a phone guy. They go through and they wire the physical building with all the ports and all the connectors and everything for Ethernet to behave itself. Okay. Now, when you go to make cable, you have to decide what kind of cable you want. And it has been my view that when you are going to be the poor fellow that has to schlep the cable through the attic, you want to ask your boss for the best cable money can buy, because you don't want to do it again. What I used to have to do was take a broomstick and tie the Ethernet cable or actually use tape to tie the Ethernet cable to the end of the broomstick. And I'd get up in the false ceiling and chuck it like a javelin to get across the building to be able to run the cable through the ceiling. And one of the things you learn the hard way is you do not run your cable over the lights unless you have shielded cable. If you're using cheap cable that's unshielded, the background noise from the lights will mess up your bandwidth and you won't get the throughput you're expecting. Okay. All right. So this cable I have here.
Your sound keeps cutting in and out.
Let's see. I can't turn off the video quite yet. Let's see. Let me.
I think it's when you move, it gets garbled or it'll cut out in certain ways. I'm not sure what though.
Okay. You know what I can try is let's hold on a second here and let me grab another microphone that I know. Office. All right. All right, let's start with the easy part and see if this behaves. Nope, I can't do it that way. Hold on a sec. Hold on a sec while I unwrap myself. Let's see here. Let me go back into settings. Audio. Okay. Test, test, test. Is it working? This is
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
I could hear you the whole time. So.
Okay,
No.
good. All right, what I'm using now is what I usually use. It's earbuds with a little microphone that's at the base, you know, basically with an extension cable so I can walk around. So good to know. All right, let me turn this other one off so we don't get feedback. Isn't technology grand? You know, if everything worked, we wouldn't have jobs. Okay, back to our cables with Cat 6 and such. As you can see, this is a lot thicker than the other cable I was just playing with. And also feel free to jump in and say, hey, you're breaking up. The cable that I have here is a hacked off piece of a patch cable that is 5E. And when you get your cable, all these numbers are pushed along or printed into the side of the cable. This one says 5E. So that gives you a certain specification of what you can do for speed on how fast you have a cable. Like at my house, I splurged and got myself a shielded cable to go from my router into the attic, across the whole house, and down into my office, so I could actually get really good throughput, because wireless, where I live in Turlock, is a known dead spot. Even the cops know about it, the firemen. It just doesn't have the right signal, gets lost or something. Okay. But now that you're looking at this wider cable, it won't fit on this ice cube. So you actually have to buy different cable ends depending on your cable. Okay. And this is one, this metal here. Let me see if I can get that into the screen. This metal one here is what you want to use on Cat 6. Okay. And you can buy complete cable kits. And in essence, with this Unshielded, you don't get quite the distance when you are using shielded. But when you use your cable, you can get one of these. You don't have to use one of these. This is called a cable stripper. And what it does is once you adjust it correctly, emphasis on correctly, you put it on here. Let me zoom out a little bit so we can actually see this a little better. And go this way. That should work. Okay. All right. So what you do is you adjust. Keeping earbuds in with an extension cable is kind of hard. I need a couple binder clips or something. Hold on. All right. There we go. So what this is a cable stripper and a cutter, and it has a little dial on it to let you control how deep you make your cut into your cable. Okay. So I've already set this up. You spin it around and you pull it off, and then it goes back off the first layer of the cable here, and I can strip off the insulation. Okay. So if it's too close, you actually cut through the cable on the inside and you have to start over. Okay. I never used one of these things because I carry a Swiss Army knife everywhere I go. I just use my Swiss Army knife. I'm actually, here's a fun piece of trivia for you. How many people in your life do you know? Okay, let's see what happens now. All right, am I back?
Yes.
Okay, I think what I need to do is change my speakers from the classroom to the headphones I'm wearing. Yeah, so like I'm sitting at my desk. All right. Well, I have on this machine, there's like 3 different speaker systems, and I think there's 2 completely different microphones, subsystems. So you have to make sure you enable the right ones. Okay. Fun times in River City. Okay. All right, back to the trivia. I carry 2 Swiss Army knives. Why? Well, this little one is perfect for ripping apart notebooks. And the big one is great for ripping apart cables. Okay. So that came unplugged. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, there's a law of what the blades are. It's considered a concealed weapon if it's over, I can't remember the length, but a Swiss Army knife is underneath that length. Okay. So not a big deal. Cable. I want to show you shielded and unshielded. This is unshielded. And shielded cable has a what looks like aluminum foil through the system or wrapped around your twisted pair cables. So what I'm going to do is take a look here and see if this has got it. Now, I don't think this is shielded. Oh, I stand corrected. It is. Okay. So what I want to do is slice my fingers so you can see bright red blood. Pull this back here. This is extremely stiff plastic. This is Cat 6, I believe. And in this mess of cable, you see this wiry stuff. That's your shield. And also in the more expensive cable, they give you what looks like a pull wire. This little piece of nylon will actually let you pull on it and slice the insulation as far as you pull on it. Okay. But you can see that each pair is individually shielded. This is a shielded cable, and this is solid core. So this is cable that you're going to run once and never move it again. Not like it would not be used in a patch situation. Twisted, which is what most of the wires are. They have the inside of these, instead of a solid copper core, it's twisted. And that makes the cable more flexible. So you can use it in patch situations. And in your book, they have the specs on what kind of speed you can get with each cable. And like I said, if you're going to run cable for a building, you don't want to do it twice. So you want to get the best cable you can get, and then figure out. And then, because then you only have to update your switches and Ethernet cards. You don't have to rerun cable. Like you can now get 10 gigabit on Ethernet, but you can't use a lot of the cable that's in buildings for that speed. Now, one of the things I will tell you is your book says there's a recommended length for certain kinds of cable. Adhere to that. but know that you can cheat. You can get, I ran Cat5 cable way outside of spec to get to a very obscure location on a plant floor type of installation. I got it to work because I used something in the middle called a repeater. It was a little device you plugged in, and it basically took the signal. It was about this big. It took the signal in, amplified it, and sent it down. Now, the problem was it worked, but it was not fast. Okay. So, and then the people were complaining, and I said, yeah, we could do it, but this is what's going to cost. And they said, oh, no, never mind it. I don't need it that bad. So that's kind of what happened. Okay, we want it, but we don't. And here's another true story about networking. Foster Farms did not have a policy about listening to streaming music while you were working. They didn't have a policy. But the network guy and I, they had a traffic shaper. And what we did is we took the traffic that came across as audio streaming from the various, Spotify, Pandora, or whatever they called 15 years ago. And we gave it the lowest priority, even below a print stream. And people's radio would break out. It would be choppy. It wouldn't work. But nobody complained because they knew they weren't supposed to do it anyway. So as a network admin, you have quite a bit of control over how fast certain things can get done if you have the right tools. In Windows Server and almost, most of your server things that have a good network stack, they have QoS. And what that does is stands for quality of service. It allows you to change some traffic to have a higher priority than other traffic. For example, think of a scan gun. You pull the trigger and you scan. You want that to be absolutely as fast as possible. It's a small amount of data, and the users on the shop floor don't want to sit there and wait 3 minutes for each scan. Okay. But for a print job, the user doesn't really care if it's going to take an extra second or two, or maybe even 10 seconds longer for a print job. Most people don't care one way or the other. Okay. So that's something to consider. It's called a traffic shaper, and it basically adheres to the quality of service. And there's a software stack that's part of the Microsoft Windows camp that I'm familiar with, because at the time we were all a Windows shop. But you can do the same thing with Linux and other tools. Okay. Later on in this course, I will do a couple of other demos like this that hopefully will have better luck with the speakers and the microphone. Is a Wireshark demo where we capture traffic and we actually look at an individual packet, which is Wireshark is one of those tools that in networking, you just have to know. It's really beneficial to know Wireshark. It's a very rich tool. It takes time to learn it, but it can save you so many headaches. Okay. So here's our cable. And then the other demo would be a home router configuration on what is a VPN pass through? What is port forwarding? What is this all about? Okay. But before we get to those, you need to get a little further in the test out books and get some of the glossary down on the TCP/IP stack and some of the commands. What's the ARP table? How do you check the ARP table? What's ping? All that stuff is very well laid out inside of test out. Okay. Okay. Now, the question, I guess I could open it up for questions here. And okay, hold on a second here. Let's make sure things work. Okay, make sure I don't unplug my cable. Okay. All right. Now, okay, said the law said because he told him to bring a Swiss cable color splicer, etc. Yeah. Slice fingers. Yeah. Yep. Okay. A little off topic. I have always carried a knife. That's just, I grew up in the Midwest. You always carried a knife. Of course, we didn't play indoors either. We were outside building tree houses and forts. Whole different world. Okay, questions about cable in general? Okay. Oh, good question. Can you splice a single wire break, or do you have to sever the entire cable and patch the whole cable? Very good question. And like everything in tech, there's 10 right answers. If you're a phone guy and the cable, an individual wire breaks, yes, you can do an individual splice. If you're on fiber and you have a break, whole different story, because you need extremely high-end equipment to be able to make a fix in fiber. Okay. Now, the best way to describe this is when you have, it's glass, it's actual glass that's in your fiber optic cable. And you have to make the cut between the broken cable and your splice absolutely flawless. Now, what I'm going to try to do is explain this with a pen and a pencil. Okay. Let's assume my pen and the pencil here are fiber optic cable. I got a break in my cable. I have to make sure that the patch is perfectly straight between both pieces. And then when I fuse it together, there will be no refraction. Because in fiber, if I have it, like say I fuse it like this, I'm going to lose all kinds of signal. And it's going to be very noisy, and it's not, and it may not even work. Okay. But there was a lot of fiber running around at Foster's and other places I worked at, but it was never spliced or fixed by Foster's employees. We brought in the experts that had the $10,000 microscope that allowed you to do that kind of repair on fiber cables. Okay. I don't know what it costs now. I'm sure it's still expensive, but when you're splicing fiber, it's a whole different world than splicing cable. And when you splice cable, yeah, you can get by with doing just one or another, or just change the ends, because not all of these are used. See, I got 4 pair in here. They're not all used. I can use, let's say I want to use, one of them's broken. And I said, well, I'll just change the ends. And then you put a tag on it saying, hey, we got a bad orange or whatever. And then you put a different end on it, wire it differently, make it pass, you're good. Okay. Because when you make your cable, it's checking for all 8 connections to go from point A to point B, but not all 8 are used. Okay. That's just kind of the way it is. They didn't, like the middle 2 aren't used per se. Okay. Copper is still the name thing, because of cost. You can use aluminum. I've seen aluminum, but dang, it's hard to work with, and it's way fat. It's really hard to work with. Oh, the twisted pair cable is actually made that way. So when they make the cable, they twist it and then they put the shielding around it. Okay. All right. So what happens is, and yes, they have the same color code across all, if you're working with cat cable or Ethernet cable, cat 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever, you're going to have the same colors and they're going to mean the same thing and you're going to wire it the same way. It's just the speed will change. Okay. What's the best practice? What is currently installed? If you are in a building that's all cat, 6E like this building, just continue working with cat 6E. Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, when you make it. Oh, when we make it in class, I give you unshielded twisted pair, and we only make it about 3 feet long, so it's not real long. And then what we do is we make a true crossover cable. Then we cut the right end off and we turn that end into a loop back plug. And then we put another end on our 3-foot cable and we have a normal patch cable. Okay. Now, crossover cables used to be something that you had to have. Well, the networking devices of modern domain, most anything I've hit that's at least, the gigabit stuff, has an automatic sensor. Your new notebooks will have an automatic sensor, so you can plug an Ethernet cable into 2 new notebooks and it will turn one side into a crossover cable. Okay. All right. So you don't need to worry about that too much unless you have older equipment. Okay. Or you're using a USB Ethernet dongle. Who knows about those things? Okay. I have those laying about out one in the classroom here. Okay. And let's see here. All right, let me make a note because there's a video I want you to watch that shows the fiber optic cable. It's a little dated now, but it's a fun thing to watch. You can just, put it on your computer and just watch it while you're doing some other homework or whatever. It's called Lightspeed, and it talks about the serendipity of how they invented fiber optic cable. Okay. And to me, fiber optic cable is one of those things that has really changed computing dramatically, because now you can have somebody in China literally as your next door neighbor, with virtually 0 latency. Okay. All right. How are the flat cables made? I don't know. I actually have a flat cable that I'm running in my house, and I got it because it had the right specs. And when I open the box, they're going, oh, this is weird. It's flat. But it's doubly shielded. Each pair is shielded, and then it's shielded again with the flat surface. Now, the only thing I can think of is it costs less to ship because it takes up less size for the flat cables. That's the only thing I can think of. And maybe the equipment, maybe it costs less to make the cable. I don't know. But it's got all the right specs, so I was happy. All right. And if you're going to do the splicing with a flat cable, you're going to need a different kind of tool. Your crimp tool will probably be the same, but how you're going to cut it, the wire, and get it, yeah, it might be somewhat different. I'm sure there's specialized tools, just like there is for everything. Okay. All right. Questions at the moment? All right. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to test something. As I'm going to go into a screen share. And I want to share this screen. So what you're seeing is my webcam thingy that lets me zoom and zoom out. It's an old phone, works pretty well. Kind of fairly well. All right, now what I want to do is bring up Alex. You're in this class, and last night you stopped by for the 290. You just stopped by. It was nice to have somebody in the classroom while I was lecturing. It was kind of nice to have a real person. Sorry if I bored you too much, Alex. The question that came up, Alex was asking on the website, there's my website, it says free VMware. Well, free VMware is kind of not free anymore. So what I want to do is bring up VirtualBox and show you just very briefly what VirtualBox is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on this Raspberry Pi PC. Now, before we go crazy with this, and I start this, it's the difference between VMware Player and VirtualBox and VMware Workstation is fairly minimal, except when you start moving into bigger and bigger installations. When you get a really big installation, you're going to want to use the VMware toolchain. That doesn't mean you can't use VirtualBox. You need different tools to bundle with it, like Vagrant and Jenkins. With the VMware toolchain, it's all the same company, all the same toolchain. So you have a consistency, okay? But I can tell you, Linode does not use VMware. They're using KVM and Vagrant, and they use VirtualBox to generate the VMs and so on and so forth, okay? Now I've got a network here. Let's see, there's my mouse. And what I want to do is show you a few, let's see if I can make this bigger. Can I zoom in? Will it let me zoom? Probably not. There we go, we'll zoom. Shift Control ++, okay. There we go, a little bigger. So if I say ping NewYorkTimes.com, you can see it's taking how long to get from point A to point B?
Not seeing anything.
Yeah, screen isn't shared.
Yeah. Can you see it or not?
No.
Oh, you can't see my screen. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. So you're not seeing it. I did the screen share. Let's go back to screen, turn it off. Oh. Now do you see it?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. So there's a
Yeah.
ping. What I did is I opened VirtualBox, and what I shared just the virtual window. I didn't share the whole desktop. Sorry about that. My fault. So I'm running Raspberry Pi PC 32-bit Debian 10, basically. So I'm pinging New York Times and takes 10 seconds. So let's ping mjc.edu. Oh no, it doesn't work. Why? Why doesn't it work? Because the way my network is set up. Okay. So I'm going to have to do a bunch of different things. So I will just want to demo a few things here. So I'm going to use another website. I'm going to go to, anybody know this one? 1.1.1? It's Cloudflare.
Did you say Quad 1? Yeah, it's Cloudflare CDN
Yeah, they
DNS
are.
resolver, yeah.
Yeah, they are a super fast DNS, secure DNS. And when they first came online, they kind of went through an act of God to get the actual IP address 1.1.1 from some legacy holders that had it. Okay. But when you use this as a DNS service, they add a lot of layers to it, but they're also using it to track the bad guys. So it's like a giant vacuum cleaner of everything on the web. The other big DNS is Google. Okay. They have a big DNS server. And then there's the traditional one that has been around for a couple of decades, is 4.4.4, but it doesn't always work. And it's usually slow. And so it was one of the original DNS providers in the early days of the net. Okay. So I've got these packets going back and forth. IBM, yep. Quad 9, yep. Good to know these things. It's good to have a few external IP addresses memorized, so you know how, so if DNS isn't working, you know you can still get to it. Then you know you have a DNS problem, not a physical cable. Layer 2, okay? So in my case, I've got to play around with networking to figure out why. Oh, I know why. I'm set up for NAT-D, okay? I can fix this later, okay? All right. Okay. All right. Now, notice I typed in Wireshark. Didn't work. So on Ubuntu, Raspberry, anything that is Debian distribution, you can say apt install Wireshark. There are other tools that do this, okay? Wireshark happens to have a really nice GUI around everything, okay? Yes. This is a huge security hole. You do not want to put Wireshark on a production box, okay? Don't do that. Don't put it on your internet-facing website, okay? Use it for troubleshooting. You can put it on a pen drive, okay? And so look up Wireshark training, find out what it takes to become trained in Wireshark. It's a fantastic forensics tool. It's real-time data capture. So you can see who's doing penetration testing against you, and you can watch them, okay? So there's a lot to this tool, And I'll demo this at some later time once I get it all working. Okay. So at the moment, step one. So I've got some troubleshooting to figure out with my IP address. You know, let's try something here. I bet you it's right here. Okay, so if I ping, I know of one external IP address that's part of our enterprise. Yeah, there's no routing. There's no route. Okay, I gotta fix that. Let me try it this way. Look at all these USB devices. And then connect it. Yep, there it's connecting. And now if I do my IPA, I now have another Ethernet adapter. And welcome to networking. You know, when something goes wrong, it's always the network's issue. If you feel lost, that's okay. This is the third week of networking, and I'm dropping you in at a pretty high level. So what you want to do is read a lot, test out. I would say the first half of this class is all about the terms, the glossary of networking, so you can kind of understand how all this fits together. Okay, so don't feel bad if you don't know some of this stuff, because how many of you even mess with a command line for the most part? Okay, so all right, what I want to try, I'm still troubleshooting my own problems here. And it says enable it. I don't have an option to, while the machine is running, to disable it. Ah, see, there we go. Now I'll be able to ping it. Where's my MJC? Oh, well, it's way back. Ping, count for mjc.edu. And we still don't have success. How interesting. Well, I'm going to have to figure that out. All right. Well, I can't do much more. So I have, so if you have questions, anybody out there interested in building cable, you know, give me a quick yes, no. You do not feel obligated, realizing that you will have to go through all the crazy protocols of getting tested, having the IBM wallet, blah, 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 blah. So I see 1, 2, 3 or 4 of you. Okay, 5. Okay, what I will do is that I will set up an appointment. So this is actually looking more promising than I thought. Okay, well, good. So what we'll do is we will be in the CAT building. We'll be in the destructive lab, which is CAT 227. It's at the other end of the building. Okay, it's closer to College and Coldwell. Okay, and don't feel obligated. This is just for you to build a cable and know how to do it. Okay, so you can say, yes, I built a cable, and use it. All right, so I'm done a little early today. So if you could do me a favor, if you want to make a cable, send me some times that will work for you. And I don't care if I get, 20 different emails, and I'll try to pool them together and put you in groups that works for your time. Okay. Because some of you might be evening, some of you might be morning, some of you might be just the afternoon. Okay. So I'll try to set that up, but send me an email, phillipsd at either MJC or yosemite.edu. They are alias to each other. So, all right. So I got about 10 of you so far. Okay, that's about right. About a third of the class. Now I will tell you this: the first time we do this, like let's say I bring in 6 of you, it's going to take a full hour, maybe an hour and a half, for you to be able to figure this out. Okay, it's not hard, but there's a feel to it that you just have to learn by doing. Okay. All right. Okay. So I am going to stop lecture a smidge early, and I will post the video for Lightspeed so you can see it. And you don't have to watch that video. Okay. The video is showing you how fiber optic was invented. And that's an interesting, it's an interesting piece of history because it has dramatically changed how we do computing. Kind of like the miniaturization of transistors. When you have close to 8 billion of them in your latest iPhone. Okay. And then once the video is finished rendering, I will go ahead and post it, and you'll be able to find it in Canvas. There's a new navigation tab that says ongoing lecture and notes. You click there, and then there'll be all the links you need will be there. Okay. So I'll get those updated today. So on that point, I am going to call it done. Turn off this stuff, stop the screen share. And stop the recording.